I found out my sister was lying to my parents for years, and I was the villain for telling the truth. You ever dig up a family secret so deep that even telling the truth makes you the enemy? You know how every family has that one child who can do no wrong? That was my sister Erica. 4 years older than me, straight-A student, piano prodigy, church volunteer, and apparently born with some invisible halo that blinded our parents to anything remotely negative about her. Meanwhile, I was the kid who forgot homework, talked back sometimes, and got labeled the difficult one before I even hit middle school. From the outside, it probably looked like we were a model family. Sunday church, family dinners, framed pictures in the hallway with matching sweaters. Everything looked perfect. But inside that house, the pressure to measure up to Erica was like trying to climb a glass wall with no footholds. No matter what I did, it was never enough. Got a B+, Erica got an A. Won second place at the science fair, Erica won first 3 years in a row. Tried to explain I was struggling with math. My parents would say, "Well, your sister didn't need a tutor." I learned early on that in our house, image was everything. My mom especially clung to this idea that we were this polished, tight-knit family, probably because she grew up with chaos and wanted to prove she could build something better. Erica fit that image perfectly. She smiled for pictures, always said the right thing around company, and knew exactly how to play the role. I, on the other hand, wore my emotions like a billboard. If I was mad, people knew. If I was upset, it showed. I couldn't fake it the way Erica could, and maybe that's why I always ended up being labeled the problem child. What hurt most was that no one ever noticed how performative Erica's perfection was. She wasn't mean to me directly, not like calling me names or anything, but she had this way of constantly reminding me I'd never catch up. If I mentioned I was excited about getting into the school play, she'd innocently bring up how she had landed the lead role her sophomore year. If I told the family I was learning to cook, she'd remind them how she had baked a 3-layer cake for Grandma's birthday when she was 15. It was always subtle, just enough to remind everyone that I was in her shadow. I remember one Thanksgiving when I was around 14. I had spent the whole morning helping Mom cook, even took care of setting the table while she rested because her back was acting up. Erica walked in an hour before dinner, in full makeup and heels, holding a homemade apple pie like she was Martha Stewart. The whole mood shifted. Suddenly it was, "Erica, you're such a sweetheart for baking. This is why we're so proud of you." My mom even said, right in front of me, "I don't know how I got so lucky with a daughter like you." I just stood there, pie filling on my shirt, the smell of garlic still on my hands from chopping all morning, and I realized then that no matter what I did, my work would always be invisible compared to her presentation. Over time, I stopped trying to compete, not because I didn't want my parents' approval, I just knew I'd never get it the way Erica did. Instead, I started focusing on being real. I made mistakes, sure. I got caught sneaking out once, had a few bad grades, got grounded more than I can count. But at least I was honest about who I was. Erica? She had this perfectly crafted persona, but I always had a gut feeling something was off. She was too polished, too rehearsed, like someone who practiced being perfect instead of actually living it. Still, if I ever tried to express how I felt, like maybe it bothered me that she always got a pass, I was met with defensiveness. My dad would say, "Don't be jealous of your sister just because she works harder," or my mom would sigh and say, "Why do you always have to start drama?" So eventually I stopped saying anything at all. I spent most of my teenage years learning to exist in Erica's shadow, learning to live with the fact that she was the sun and I was just another planet orbiting around her spotlight. I didn't hate her. I just resented the way she could do anything, and still be seen as flawless. And I resented the fact that if I made even one mistake, it was all anyone could talk about. At the time, I thought maybe I was just being bitter. Maybe she was just that perfect and I was the screw-up. But that all changed the day I accidentally found out who Erica really was behind the curtain. That was the day everything I thought I knew about my sister and my family completely unraveled. And the worst part? Telling the truth didn't make me the hero. It made me the enemy. I remember the first time I saw the cracks in Erica's perfect image. It was subtle, like the kind of thing you dismiss if you weren't already suspicious. But I'd lived in her shadow long enough to know when something didn't add up. And this This was the beginning of something bigger. It was during winter break, my junior year of high school. Erica was home from college, supposedly doing great at her fancy out-of-state university. Our parents were bragging nonstop how she was on the dean's list, how she was working as a lab assistant, how she might even graduate early. Honestly, I had tuned most of it out. I was busy just trying to survive finals and make it through the holidays without losing my mind. One night, I was looking for a charger in the guest room, Erica's old room, which she stayed in whenever she visited. She wasn't home at the time. She'd gone out to study with a friend. I knew she still kept some of her stuff there, so I figured I'd borrow a charger from her nightstand. I wasn't snooping. I swear. I wasn't even curious. I just needed to charge my phone. But when I opened the drawer, there it was. A crumpled letter from her university, half tucked beneath a book. I glanced at it without thinking, and then froze. The words, academic probation, jumped off the page like a red siren. I picked it up, heart pounding. It was addressed to Erica and dated 3 months prior. According to the letter, she had failed 2 courses and was in danger of suspension if her grades didn't improve. I read it twice, stunned. It felt like I had just discovered a crack in the foundation of our house, small but deep and spreading fast. I sat there on the edge of the bed, letter in hand, trying to make sense of it. Erica, the overachiever? Erica, the golden child? Erica, on academic probation? That couldn't be right. And yet, there it was, in black and white. My first instinct was disbelief. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe she had already fixed it. But then I started remembering little things. Offhand comments, missed calls, how she'd avoided talking about classes during dinner. I thought back to how she'd brushed off my dad asking what labs she was working in. She'd said something like, "Oh, just boring first-year stuff," and quickly changed the subject. That night, she came home around midnight, laughing loudly on the phone with someone. She didn't look stressed. She didn't look like someone whose academic future was hanging by a thread. She looked carefree, like none of it mattered. I didn't confront her, not right away. I tucked the letter back where I found it, suddenly unsure of everything. What if I told my parents and I was wrong? What if she had fixed everything and I'd just make myself look petty? I could already hear my mom saying I was jealous again, that I was trying to stir up trouble. So I waited. I started paying closer attention. I watched her lie to their faces, little things, but they added up. She told them she was applying for research internships. I saw her laptop open to Netflix while she scrolled Instagram. She said she was reading for a literature class. I saw her browsing fashion blogs. She made up study sessions and group projects as excuses to go out. She'd show up late, reeking of club perfume and cheap wine, but somehow still managed to get our mom to gush about her dedication. It was infuriating. The same parents who grounded me for getting a B- were praising Erica for studying until midnight when she was clearly out partying. She had them wrapped around her finger, and they didn't even notice the leash. But the moment that truly convinced me something was seriously wrong came a week later. I was walking past the kitchen early in the morning, way earlier than I usually get up, and I heard Erica on the phone. Her voice was low, anxious. She was pacing. I paused near the door, not proud of it, but I listened. She was talking to someone about how she didn't know how much longer she could keep this whole thing up. She said something like, "If they find out I'm not even enrolled next semester, they'll never forgive me." My heart dropped. That was it. She wasn't just on probation. She was out. And she hadn't told anyone. After that, I couldn't unsee it. Every smile she gave, every compliment she soaked in from our parents, it all felt fake, like she was wearing this mask of perfection while hiding a whole storm behind it. I wasn't just angry. I was hurt. All those years of being compared to her, of being made to feel like I was less, and it had all been built on a lie. I didn't know what to do next. Part of me wanted to confront her directly. Part of me wanted to throw the letter in our parents' faces and yell, "Still think she's perfect?" But deep down, I knew the truth. Telling them wouldn't make me the hero. It would make me the villain. And that's what scared me most. After hearing Erica's phone call and reading that letter, I couldn't sleep for days. Every time I looked at her, I felt like I was staring at a stranger. The girl who had been held up as the flawless one, The model child wasn't just lying. She was living an entirely separate life behind our backs. And the worst part was, she was so good at it. She was still getting away with it. I kept asking myself the same question. What else was she hiding? I wasn't planning to go full detective mode, but once your gut tells you something is wrong, it's hard to ignore. And I guess, in the back of my mind, I needed confirmation. Proof that I wasn't crazy or just being bitter. So one afternoon when she left her laptop open and stepped out to get coffee, I did something I'd never done before. I opened it. I know, not my proudest moment. But trust me, after years of feeling like the problem child, of being dismissed, ignored, and second-guessed, I needed answers. And boy, did I get them. Her inbox was a goldmine of secrets. I wasn't even looking that hard. Just a few scrolls and searches, and it all came tumbling out. There were emails from her university, more than one, confirming her withdrawal from the semester. Not probation, withdrawal. She had dropped out completely. Apparently, she hadn't been enrolled since the middle of last term. But the rabbit hole went deeper. I found messages from a local apartment complex near her college town. She'd moved out of the dorms months ago, but hadn't told anyone. Instead of living on campus, she had been renting a place with a guy named Sean, who, from the messages, was clearly more than just a roommate. Some of their emails hinted at financial struggles, too. She'd maxed out her credit card and was behind on rent. There were even a few exchanges with job recruiters. Nothing about internships or research labs. Just retail jobs, a barista position, and even a server gig at a local restaurant. My sister, the same one who our parents swore was destined for med school, was working at a diner and living with a guy they didn't even know existed. It felt surreal. But the worst part, the message chain with our mom. It was like watching two completely different realities. Erica would tell her things like, studying late tonight for finals, wish me luck, or just got assigned to a new lab, so excited. Meanwhile, I was staring at an email she sent to Sean 10 minutes earlier that said, faking this perfect student crap is exhausting. I don't know how much longer I can do this. That line hit me like a punch. It confirmed everything I'd suspected and feared. All those years of being compared, of being made to feel like the disappointment, while she was faking the entire script, and I was the one who got grounded for attitude problems. I was the one who was always causing stress in the family. Meanwhile, Erica was rewriting reality in her favor, and everyone just clapped. I closed her laptop and sat there in the silence, heart pounding, not even sure what to do with what I had just found. I wanted to scream. I wanted to print out every email and tape it to the walls. I wanted my parents to read every word and finally see her for who she really was. But I didn't yet, because I knew that truth doesn't always win in families like ours. In families where image is everything, where the child who shines the brightest blinds everyone to the rest, the truth isn't a welcome guest, it's an intruder. I started imagining the confrontation. I could already hear my mom's voice. You invaded her privacy. She's going through something and you're making it worse. My dad would probably shake his head and say, why would you try to sabotage your own sister? And Erica? She'd cry. She'd say I was jealous. She'd act hurt, betrayed. And it would work, because it always worked. So I sat on it. I kept my mouth shut for a few more days, walking around the house like I was carrying a ticking time bomb. I kept watching her act her part, charm our parents, post pictures of fake study sessions on Instagram while texting Sean about rent being late. It was like watching someone perform a play, except I was the only one who knew it wasn't real. Eventually, I knew I couldn't hold it in any longer. Whether or not it blew up in my face, I couldn't keep living with this secret. Not after everything. I decided I would tell the truth. I just didn't realize how much damage the truth could do, or how fast it would turn me from the ignored sibling into the family villain. There's something no one tells you about exposing the truth in a family like mine. It doesn't bring clarity, it brings chaos. I thought that when I laid it all out, people would finally see what I had seen. That the blindfold would fall away, that I'd be heard for once. Instead, I watched my family collapse into something I didn't even recognize. The night I decided to come clean, My heart felt like it was sprinting inside my chest. I knew it wasn't going to go well, but I also knew I couldn't carry this alone anymore. I waited until dinner, when we were all sitting around the table eating Erica's famous lasagna. Yes, the one my mom always raved about, like it was made with holy water or something. She was in peak performance mode, smiling, laughing, dropping casual college references like breadcrumbs to keep the fantasy alive. I sat there, picking at my food, waiting for the right moment, and when it came, I didn't ease into it. I just said it. I need to talk to everyone. It's important. My dad gave me a tired glance, like he expected me to bring up some minor teenage complaint. My mom looked mildly annoyed, probably assuming I was about to ask for money or explain why I'd forgotten to clean the garage again. Erica froze. Only for a second, but I saw it. The flicker of panic. She knew, and then I laid it out. I told them about the letter I found, that she wasn't on academic probation, she had dropped out completely, that she hadn't lived in the dorms in months, that she was working a server job, that she had lied about her classes, her internship, everything. I didn't mention Sean by name. Not yet. I thought the other stuff would be enough. At first, there was silence. Thick, suffocating silence. Then my mom blinked rapidly, like her brain had hit a wall it couldn't process. "What are you talking about?" she finally asked. "I saw the letter," I said calmly, "and I saw her emails. She hasn't been in school. She lied to all of us." Erica's face turned red, part anger, part embarrassment, but she didn't deny it, not at first. She just stared at me like I had pulled the rug out from under her in the middle of a performance. My dad broke the silence next. "You went through her emails?" His tone wasn't shock, it was disgust. I couldn't believe it. That was the takeaway? "Dad, are you serious? That's what you're focused on?" He didn't answer. He just kept shaking his head, looking at me like I had committed some unforgivable sin. My mom, meanwhile, turned to Erica, waiting, hoping for her to say it wasn't true, to deny everything. But she didn't. She started crying instead. "I didn't know how to tell you," she said, voice cracking on cue. "I was ashamed. I didn't want to disappoint you." And just like that, the entire atmosphere shifted. My mom got up, rushed to her side, wrapped her arms around her like she was 5 years old again and had skinned her knee. "Sweetheart, why didn't you come to us?" she whispered. I just sat there, stunned. No one asked me why I had kept it to myself. No one asked how it felt to carry this secret. No one acknowledged that the golden child they had put on a pedestal was human after all, and deeply flawed. Instead, the spotlight swung straight back to Erica. The sympathy, the concern. And me? I was shoved into the role of the betrayer. My dad eventually turned to me, his jaw clenched. "You had no right to go through her things. No matter what she's going through, you crossed a line." My jaw dropped. I had just revealed that my sister had lied to them for months, manipulated them, built a fantasy life, and they were mad at me. "I crossed a line?" I said, my voice trembling. "She lied to you for half a year, but I'm the villain here because I found out the truth?" My mom gave me that look. You know the one. The mix of disappointment and pity, like I was just some angry kid acting out again. "I think you've always resented your sister," she said quietly, as if that explained everything. "And maybe this was your way of getting back at her." That was the moment I knew there was no winning. Not in this house, not in this family. The golden child could fall from grace and still land in a cushion of empathy. Me? I was the scapegoat, always had been. Erica didn't speak to me for the rest of the night. She just sniffled and let our parents fuss over her, while I sat there at the table invisible again. Except this time, I was visible just enough to be blamed. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering if I had made a mistake. But deep down, I knew I hadn't. I didn't lie. I didn't fake a life. I told the truth. It's just that in some families, truth doesn't set you free. It burns everything down. After the truth came out, nothing felt the same. You'd think a confession like Erica's would have caused some long overdue self-reflection in my family, But instead, it was like everyone doubled down. My parents moved into damage control mode, not to repair the trust that had been broken, but to preserve the illusion they had wrapped around her for so long. They said they were supporting her through a tough time. They framed it like she had slipped, like this was just one misstep on an otherwise perfect path. But I knew better. This wasn't just about a mistake. It was about a pattern of deceit, and they weren't ready to deal with that. It was easier to paint her as temporarily lost, and me as the one who broke the peace. In the days that followed, the house grew heavy with tension. My mom avoided being alone in a room with me. My dad barely said a word unless it was to remind me that trust is earned, not taken. And Erica? She started posting more online. Selfies with captions about mental health and healing, vague enough to stir sympathy, but carefully worded to avoid admitting what had actually happened. It was like watching someone rebrand herself after a scandal. And it worked. Friends and extended family started calling to check in on her. My mom must have gone on a PR tour of her own, because the narrative became Erica's going through something, and her sister exposed it in a really insensitive way. I overheard one of my aunts say on the phone that I needed therapy for jealousy issues. I didn't even feel angry anymore, just numb. The house I grew up in no longer felt like home. It felt like a place where truth had no value, where love was conditional on how well you performed, and where being real came at a cost I was no longer willing to pay. So I started pulling away. I stopped trying to explain myself. I stopped defending what I did. I focused on school, my part-time job, my own goals. I stopped waiting for validation from people who had made it clear they couldn't or wouldn't see me for who I was. And strangely, the less I tried, the freer I felt. It wasn't about winning anymore. I realized that no matter how much truth I brought into the light, some people would always choose the story that made them feel most comfortable. In this case, the story where the younger daughter is a rebel with a vendetta and the older one is a brilliant girl who just stumbled for a moment. Let them have that story. I can't lie. It hurt, watching my parents coddle her, watching them continue to make excuses. It felt like betrayal all over again. But what helped was learning that I didn't need their validation to be okay. I had my own truth, and I was finally standing in it. Eventually, Erica moved out and got a job full-time. No one talks about college anymore. It's like the entire episode was quietly swept under the rug. She still plays the role, but the edges have frayed. I think deep down, she knows I see her, really see her, and that's something she'll never be able to take back. As for me, I've started planning for my own move, college out of state, maybe even a small apartment on my own if I can swing it. I've learned how to be my own support system, how to stop measuring my worth by someone else's metrics. And that might be the biggest gift this mess ever gave me. I don't hate my sister. I don't even hate my parents. I've just stopped waiting for them to change. Family isn't always what we want it to be. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it hurts. And sometimes it teaches you exactly who not to be. So to anyone else out there who feels like the invisible sibling, the overlooked one, the so-called problem child, know this: you're not the problem. Sometimes the system itself is broken, and sometimes telling the truth will cost you, but hiding it will cost you even more. Thanks for listening.